I never thought a bottle of lavender oil would be my weapon of choice against Aunt Joan, but here we are. My name is Riley Chin and I'm 22 years old. Most people think I'm pretty normal. I work at a coffee shop downtown, I like hiking on weekends, and I prefer jeans over dresses. But according to my Aunt Joan, I'm everything wrong with young women today. Before I continue, please let me know where you are listening from in the comment section. Also comment your experience with family so that we can learn from each other. Let's get started. Riley, sweetie, when are you going to start acting like a lady? She said to me last Christmas right in front of everyone. Look at your cousin Madison. Now there's a girl who knows how to present herself. Madison was 19 and spent most of her time taking selfies and complaining about everything. But she wore pink lipstick and carried a tiny purse, so in Aunt Joan's world she was perfect. I should probably explain about Aunt Joan. She's my mom's older sister, and ever since Dad died 3 years ago, she's basically tried to take over our family. Not in a helpful way, in a I know better than everyone way. Mom was too tired from working 2 jobs to fight her on most things, so Joan just moved in on our lives. Every family gathering became the Joan show. She'd rearrange Mom's furniture to make it more welcoming. She'd criticize the food Mom spent hours making. And she'd give me these long lectures about how I needed to embrace my feminine side if I ever wanted to find a husband. The worst part was how she treated our house like her personal kingdom. During holidays or family parties, she'd walk around giving orders like she owned the place. Riley, go get more ice. Riley, the bathroom needs cleaning. Riley, why don't you make yourself useful and help in the kitchen? Meanwhile, precious Madison would sit on the couch scrolling through her phone, completely useless. But the thing that really got to me was how Joan would go into my room without asking. She'd just waltz in there like she owned it, usually when she was on the phone gossiping with someone. She'd sit on my bed, mess with my stuff, and spray my perfume all over herself while she talked trash about other family members. Did you hear about Cousin Sandra's divorce? She'd say into her phone, pumping my vanilla body spray like it was her personal property. I always said that marriage wouldn't last. Sandra never knew how to keep a man happy. The vanilla spray was my favorite. I saved up for months to buy it from this fancy boutique downtown. It wasn't even that expensive, but when you're making coffee shop money, $25 for perfume feels like a luxury. Joan would use half the bottle every time she came over. When I asked Mom to say something, she just sighed and said, Riley, honey, just buy a cheaper one if it bothers you so much. Joan's going through a hard time with her divorce. Joan's divorce happened 2 years ago. Apparently hard times last forever when you're Joan. The breaking point came on Christmas Day last year. We were having our usual chaos. Mom stressed in the kitchen, Joan holding court in the living room, various cousins and uncles scattered around watching football and trying to avoid Joan's commentary on their life choices. I was in my room wrapping some last-minute gifts when Joan barged in with her phone pressed to her ear. No, Linda, you don't understand, she was saying as she plopped down on my bed. Riley is such a tomboy. Patricia, that's my sister, she just doesn't know how to raise a feminine daughter. I froze with the wrapping paper in my hands. I keep trying to help, but Riley is so stubborn. She wears those awful jeans everywhere. And her hair, when's the last time she even brushed it properly? If she doesn't change soon, she'll end up alone like that cousin of ours. What's her name? Janet. Cousin Janet was a successful lawyer who owned her own firm. She was single by choice and seemed pretty happy about it. But in Joan's world, any woman without a husband was automatically a failure. I'm telling you, Linda, some girls just don't have the natural grace. It's not their fault, but... Joan reached for my perfume bottle while she talked. Patricia should have put her in those beauty pageant classes when she was little. Now it might be too late. She sprayed the vanilla scent all over her neck and wrists, using up what was left in the bottle. That's when I snapped. Not visibly, I'm not stupid. But something inside me just clicked. I was done being Joan's personal servant and favorite topic of conversation. I was done watching her take over my mom's house and treat us both like we were lucky to have her around. I needed a plan. The next day I was complaining to my coworker Jessica about the whole thing. We were closing up the coffee shop together, wiping down tables and counting the register. God, your aunt sounds awful, Jessica said. What kind of person just uses someone else's perfume without asking? The same kind who thinks she can rearrange my mom's living room and criticize everything we do, I said, scrubbing harder than necessary at a coffee stain. You should put something gross in the perfume bottle. Like, I don't know, vinegar or something. I laughed, but then I started actually thinking about it. Not vinegar. That would be too obvious and too mean. But maybe. Jessica, you're allergic to cats, right? Yeah, why? What happens when you're around them? I get all red and sneezy and my eyes water like crazy. It's horrible. Why are you asking me this? An idea was starting to form in my head. A terrible, perfect idea. No reason. Just curious. That weekend I did some research. I found out that lots of people have allergies they don't even know about. Essential oils can trigger reactions in sensitive people, especially if they're used in high concentrations. I also found out that Joan had mentioned being allergic to something floral once, but I couldn't remember what. It was during one of her dramatic stories about a restaurant that had too many flowers and made her all sneezy. I decided to do a little detective work. The next family dinner was at our house like always. Joan showed up early to help, which meant she wanted to rearrange things and criticize Mom's cooking before anyone else arrived. She was going on about the centerpiece Mom had made. Patricia, honey, don't you think these flowers are a little much? They're so overwhelming. I looked closer at the flowers. They were mixed, but I could see some lavender sprigs in there. Are those bothering you, Aunt Joan? I asked innocently. Well, I don't want to complain, but lavender has always made me a little sniffly. I'm probably allergic. But don't worry about it, I can manage. Bingo. Joan loved to play the martyr. She'd mention being uncomfortable with something, then immediately say she could manage so people would feel bad and fix it for her. Usually it worked. Mom was already reaching for the flowers to remove them. But this time I filed that information away for later. New Year's Eve was coming up and Mom always threw a party. It wasn't anything fancy, just family and a few neighbors, some snacks, champagne at midnight. But Joan treated it like she was hosting a royal ball. She'd been talking about it for weeks. Patricia, you really should get some of those fancy appetizers from the grocery store. And maybe we could rearrange the furniture to make more space for dancing? Oh, and I hope you're planning to dress up a little. This is a celebration after all. Mom just nodded and smiled, but I could see how tired she was. Working 2 jobs and then having to worry about Joan's approval for everything was wearing her down. 3 days before the party, I made a trip to the health food store downtown. They had a whole section of essential oils, tiny bottles that cost more than they should but smelled amazing. I found the lavender oil. Pure lavender essential oil, the label said. Highly concentrated, use sparingly. Perfect. The plan was simple. Joan always went into my room during parties to use my perfume and make her gossip calls. All I had to do was replace my vanilla spray with something that looked exactly the same but would make her regret invading my space. I bought a cheap vanilla body spray from the drugstore that looked almost identical to my expensive one. Then I carefully emptied it out and filled it with water and a generous amount of lavender oil. The smell was pretty strong, but Joan always oversprayed anyway, so she probably wouldn't notice until it was too late. The night of the party, I put the fake perfume bottle in its usual spot on my dresser and hid the real one in my closet. Then I waited. People started arriving around 8. The usual crowd, Uncle Mike and Aunt Sarah, Cousin Madison and her boyfriend Tyler, the Johnson family from next door, a few of Mom's coworkers. Everyone was in a good mood, ready to celebrate the new year. Joan, of course, had appointed herself as hostess. She was wearing a sparkly silver dress that was probably appropriate for a cocktail party at a fancy hotel but looked a little much for our living room. She'd done her hair in some complicated updo and was wearing enough jewelry to stock a small store. "Riley," she called out when she saw me. "Oh honey, you're wearing jeans again. Don't you have anything a little more festive?" I was wearing dark jeans and a nice black sweater. Perfectly appropriate for a casual New Year's party, but not fancy enough for Joan's standards. "I'm comfortable," I said. "Well, comfort isn't everything, sweetie. Sometimes we need to make an effort. Especially when there are eligible young men around." She gestured toward Tyler, who was 19 and spent most of his time vaping and talking about cryptocurrency. I'll keep that in mind, I said and escaped to the kitchen to help Mom with the snacks. The party went on like usual. People ate, drank, talked about their plans for the new year. Joan flitted around making sure everyone knew she was in charge, giving opinions nobody asked for about everything from the music to the food to people's outfits. Around 10:30 I saw her heading toward the hallway where the bedrooms were. She had her phone in her hand and was already dialing someone. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding. This was it. I heard my bedroom door close, then Joan's voice getting louder as she got comfortable. Linda? It's me. Go, you should see this party. Patricia tried her best, but, well, you know how she is with entertaining. I crept closer to the door trying to hear better. And Riley showed up in jeans again. Jeans? To a New Year's party. I swear that girl has no sense of occasion. I keep trying to give her advice but she just doesn't listen. There was a pause while Linda said something on the other end. Oh, I know. Some girls just don't have it naturally. You can't teach style if someone doesn't want to learn. Although between you and me I think part of the problem is Patricia. She's never been great with feminine things herself. I clenched my fist. Joan was criticizing my mom who had worked her butt off to make this party nice for everyone. Hold on, Linda, let me just. I heard the familiar sound of my perfume bottle being picked up and shaken. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Oh yes, Patricia. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister, but she's just never had that natural elegance. And poor Riley is paying the price. Spray, spray, spray. Joan was really going for it tonight. I mean, look at my Madison. That girl knows how to present herself. She's got 3 different boys interested in her right now. But Riley? I honestly worry she'll end up alone. More spraying. The lavender oil was really concentrated. I hoped I hadn't overdone it. It's just sad, you know. Riley could be pretty if she tried. But she's so stubborn about this whole tomboy thing. I keep telling Patricia she should put her foot down, but... Joan's voice was getting a little hoarse. Good. Sorry, Linda, I think I'm getting a little... achoo. Excuse me. I think I might be coming down with something. I pressed my ear closer to the door. No, I'm fine. Just a little... Oh my God, what is... achoo? The sneezing was getting more frequent. I heard Joan moving around the room, probably trying to figure out what was making her react. Linda, I'm going to have to call you back. Something's... Oh no, my eyes are starting to water. The phone call ended but Joan didn't leave the room right away. I heard her moving around, probably looking in the mirror trying to figure out what was happening to her. What the hell, she muttered. Achoo. Finally the door opened and Joan stumbled out. Her eyes were red and watery, her nose was running and she was sneezing every few seconds. The fancy updo was starting to fall apart from all the sneezing, and her makeup was getting smudged from her watery eyes. Are you okay, Aunt Joan? I asked, trying to look concerned. Achoo. I think I'm having an allergic reaction to something. Maybe it's the flowers or, achoo, or someone's perfume. That's terrible, I said. Maybe you should go splash some water on your face? Good idea, she said, heading toward the bathroom. Achoo. Achoo. I went back to the party trying not to smile too obviously. For the next 3 hours Joan was a mess. She kept sneezing and her eyes kept watering. She tried to maintain her hostess act, but it's hard to hold court when you're sneezing every 30 seconds and your mascara is running down your face. The worst part for her was that she couldn't stop herself from gossiping, even though she was clearly miserable. She'd corner someone to talk trash about another family member, but then she'd sneeze all over them mid-sentence. Did you hear about Cousin Mark's new girlfriend? She asked Aunt Sarah. I don't think she's... achoo. Achoo. Very appropriate for the family. Aunt Sarah kept trying to back away but Joan kept following her, sneezing and talking. She's got all these tattoos and I heard she works at some kind of... achoo? Achoo. Alternative lifestyle establishment. Joan, maybe you should go home and rest, Aunt Sarah suggested. No, I'm fine. Just a little reaction to something. Probably those flowers Patricia chose. Anyway, about Mark's girlfriend. It was beautiful. Every time Joan tried to spread gossip about someone, She'd sneeze all over the person she was talking to. People started avoiding her, making excuses to get away when they saw her coming. Madison was mortified. "Mom, you're embarrassing me," she whispered loudly. "Can't you take some Benadryl or something?" "I don't know what's wrong with me," Joan said, her voice all congested. "This has never happened before." Achoo. By midnight, Joan looked like she'd been hit by a truck. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was streaked down her face, and she was clutching a handful of tissues. When everyone gathered to watch the ball drop on TV, she was standing by herself in the corner, sneezing and looking miserable. At 12:01 she announced she was going home. "I'm so sorry to leave early," she told Mom, though she didn't sound sorry at all. She sounded congested and defeated. "I think I need to see a doctor about these allergies. Something in this house is really bothering me." "I hope you feel better," Mom said, and she actually meant it. Mom's too nice for her own good. After Joan left, the party immediately got more fun. People relaxed, laughed louder, and actually seemed to enjoy themselves instead of walking on eggshells around Queen Joan. Uncle Mike even said, "It's nice to have a conversation without being interrupted every 5 minutes." The next day, Joan called Mom to complain about the party. "Patricia, I think you need to be more careful about what kind of flowers you use for decorating. And maybe some of your guests were wearing too much perfume. I had such a terrible allergic reaction. I'm still congested today." "I'm sorry you didn't feel well," Mom said. "Maybe next time we should skip the flowers altogether." "Oh, don't worry about me," Joan said, playing the martyr again. "I can handle a little discomfort for the sake of family. But you might want to think about other people who could have allergies." Over the next few weeks, Joan kept mentioning her mysterious allergic reaction at the party. She told everyone who would listen about how something in our house had made her sick, and how she was probably going to have to see a specialist. But the important thing was she stopped going into my room. At first I thought it was just because she was being more careful about allergens in general. But then I realized she was avoiding my room specifically. She'd walk past it quickly when she came over, like she was afraid something in there would trigger another reaction. Perfect. The next family gathering was Cousin Danny's birthday in February. Joan showed up with her usual attitude, ready to take charge and criticize everything. But when she needed to make one of her gossip calls, she went outside instead of using my room. "It's freezing out there," Madison complained when Joan came back in shivering. "Oh, I just needed some fresh air," Joan said. "I've been a little sensitive to indoor allergens lately." I hid my smile behind a glass of soda. A few weeks later, Mom mentioned that Joan had been asking weird questions about our house. "She wants to know if we've changed detergents or if we're using new air fresheners or if we've gotten any new furniture," Mom said. "I think she's really worried about having another allergic reaction like at New Year's." "That's strange," I said innocently. "Maybe she should see an allergist." That's what I told her. But you know Joan, she thinks she can figure everything out herself. Joan never did figure it out. She kept coming to family events, but she stayed out of my room. When she needed to make phone calls, she went outside or used Mom's room instead. My expensive vanilla perfume was safe. My space was finally private. And Joan couldn't use my room as her personal gossip headquarters anymore. The best part was that I hadn't actually hurt her. She'd been uncomfortable for a few hours and a little congested for a couple days, but nothing serious. It was basically like having seasonal allergies for one evening. But the lesson stuck. Joan learned that my room wasn't her territory and she never tried to claim it again. A few months later, I told Jessica the whole story while we were working at the coffee shop. "That's genius," she said. "And kind of evil. But mostly genius." "It was just a little lavender," I said. "Nothing dangerous. Just educational." "Has she figured it out yet?" "Nope. She still thinks it was the flowers or someone's perfume or some mystery allergen in our house. She'll probably never know it was me." Good. She deserved it. Nobody should have to put up with someone treating their room like a public space. Jessica was right. Everyone deserves to have their space respected, especially in their own home. Joan had been treating our house like her personal kingdom for too long, and treating me like her personal servant. Sometimes you have to get creative to set boundaries with people who don't listen to words. Joan still comes to family events and she still has opinions about everything. She still thinks I should wear more dresses and act more feminine. But she doesn't go into my room anymore and she doesn't use my things without asking. She learned that some spaces are off limits, even if she doesn't know exactly why. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge is the kind that teaches a lesson without anyone getting seriously hurt. Joan got a few hours of discomfort, but she also got a clear message about boundaries.